Okay, it's another Thursday, people. We are here again. Of course, it's the conversation. It's outspoken, opinionated. I am your host, Edwin Maya. Happy International Women's Month. Happy National Women's Month. All that good stuff to all the ladies out there, especially to my melanin sisters and mothers. I want to say happy, happy, happy International Women's Month, if that's what it's called. I think it's National Women's Month. But anyway, I would say international because I want to include everybody in it. But of course, it's another Thursday. We're out here trying to celebrate our mothers, our sisters, and all the great women that have been extremely impactful in our lives. And so, if you guys have been going on with us, we've been advertising, we're having a conversation tonight really about redefining motherhood. And this conversation is really, really important because I feel that and the team, of course, you already know. So they came up to me and said, we need to have this conversation. Let me tell you guys what happened. So they said, we need to have the conversation. I'm like, how can I have the conversation? Like, I haven't given birth. And they're like, well, you need to have the conversation. People feel that women are supposed to be, you know, that's it. Once they have kids, that's the main thing, and blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay. So of course we tabled the talk. We decided to put it on Facebook, get some questions, and the women who were really vocal on that conversation were the people who brought them on the show tonight. So that's how we got them. They probably didn't figure it out, but we put it out there. They responded. They came with all their opinions and the comments and stuff like that. And so that's why we have them on the show. So we have two people who are calling in all the way from Liberia. So I'm super excited. I know it's extremely late. So I'm gonna bring Yavo Jones Boycott into the stream. Hey, Yavo, how are you?
Hello, hello. Good evening to you all. Good morning to me, but good evening to you.
I know. Good evening to you. Well, can you just tell the people who you are, what you do? I told them you all the way from Liberia, so just they should really respect the time. So if you start yawning, they should know.
Okay, I'm gonna do my best. So let me first apologize for the video. As Edwin said, you know, it's late and I'm comfortable, so y'all gonna just get this voice. But my name is Yavo Jones Boykai. I am an educator by profession. So up until moving to Liberia, kids were my life, right? Right? So I think, and I feel, I guess I'll have to say, I think you did bait us. And once you sent me that inbox, I was like, this is what he did. But it's okay. I'm here. I'm ready to have this conversation. And yeah, let's do this.
Well, it's good to have you. I also have Laurie Eid. So Laurie Eid is joining. Laurie, can you just introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, what you do?
Well, hi, this is Lorraine, and my background is in clinical psych, but I am also a business owner, and I own a few products on the market right now that I craft myself. So the conversation really was very interesting because it's something that people really needed. So that's one of the reasons why I was very excited to join the crew today.
Well, thank you for coming. Like Yavo said, I think she figured it out once she got the inbox. I was like, yeah, I got them. But the conversation, and I really want to put it out to you guys, it was actually a real story. The story that I put out was a conversation. I was just going to give it to people who probably didn't get to read it. I have a friend who it's an acquaintance. I would say she's a friend who is an attorney in a really well-known district in New York, in the state of New York. And her partner, they're fine, they gave me the rights to say the story. But the partner is also, her partner is a law professor at Columbia. And so life has been great. They got married around 2008. Yeah, 2008, you graduated from college, you got married, life is great, everything is fine. Risen in a career, I mean, life is great. They live in an amazing brownstone. I mean, they're living a New York life. Now, being that she is from the other part of the world where most of us are from, where having kids is extremely important, she's been getting pressure. And so the pressure has been really serious coming from her side of the family. He's Hispanic. They're fine, you know, with the life, and it's really. And one day, what really bothered her, and she called me crying, was the fact that she was told by one of her family members who seemed to be really close to her that what's your worth? If you have obtained all this in life and you can have a child, then what's going on with you? Is there something wrong with you? And so she broke down, because for her, it's like, I've achieved everything in life. I'm the first in my class. I made it to law school. I mean, I am almost chief district attorney. Like, I've done so much. And the only thing my family can see as an achievement is for me to give birth. And so that's why I bring it up to you guys, because you guys all are, you're women. You guys are actually already, you know, have kids or aspiring mothers. How did you first read, when I posted it on Facebook, what happened to you when you first read it? And I will start with Yabo, because she was extremely opinionated.
I think when I first read it, it was, of course, right? It's just like, I'm 4 years into being married. And I'm, you know, I also get the same questions as well. So I definitely felt, you know, what she felt. But it's always that thing. I always want to just scream, why does it have to be her? Like, that's my initial reaction all the time now, because it's just like, why does it have to be her? Why can't it be him? You know? So I think that was just the gut reaction that I had, you know, to the story. And of course, you know, my heart went out to her. It was just kind of like, yeah, I know the feeling. But I think on the flip side, though, I hear it less from my side of the family, because they know I'm going to clap back. I don't have any restraint on them, you know, but I'm forced to restrain myself when it comes to the other, you know, my in-law. So, you know, that's definitely been something that, you know, I've been dealing with. And I've found my little slick ways of responding without outrightly saying things. But, you know, I definitely felt her. That was it. Yeah, it resonated with me. It definitely resonated with me.
So, Laurette, what's your opinion?
Well, yeah, it's something that is real, especially for us from the other side of that pond. It's something that's real. Everybody, whether it's the in-laws or within the family, the woman's worth tends to be associated with how many sons she gave birth to. Because even if she had given birth and it was a bunch of women, they would ask her, you know, when is she going to give birth to a boy? You know, because I got a bunch of girls, I get that question. And then I tell people that at the end of the day, you understand that women take better care of their parents. And they're like, yeah, it's true. And the conversation ends there.
But then,
yeah,
I feel even scientifically, you're like, I'm not the one that determines who gave me all these girls.
Exactly. But we don't want to go there, girl.
Exactly.
And that's why you say we don't want to go there, but I think that's where we should also go, because for us coming from that side of the world, when I say that side of the world, guys who are watching, I'm talking about Africa, any place of African descent, the Caribbean, or other places where, you know, giving birth is, you know, it's important. Your mother, the people want to be grandparents, you know, it's all that stuff. You having kids is not really for you. It's for your mom and your dad to brag. It's their bragging rights that I have grandchildren. But I want us to go there, because this conversation, another person put it on the table when we're having this conversation in our little, we call it the village meeting. The person said, you know something what we don't do? What about the guy?
Yep.
Have anybody asked him to say, hey, sir, are you ready for a child? Because everybody look at the woman and was like, what happens if she's not ready? But have you asked her partner, her husband, her boyfriend, whoever that significant other is he ready for a child? Leave the woman alone.
Yep.
I think
that's true.
Go ahead.
I think, you know, that's even a big thing that not only do we not talk about whether is he ready, but there's this conversation where women feel they have to protect their partners, because also male infertility is real. And, you know, sometimes people don't come and say, you know, people will be like, they're looking at you because, oh, you're getting older, but so is he. Has he brought any kids to you? You know, like, has he ever experienced that? Guess what? You know, he got that late, you know, I think I'm late text, right? So it's just one of those things where it's like, it's so many there, it's real, especially with all the things going on with people in the health. It's not always the women nowadays, you know, everybody's experiencing, why can't we have this child thing together? You know, from the financial to, you know, we're just not ready, to the infertility issue. So all of those things, and it's not always the women. You're right. It's definitely not always the women.
That's very true. But it's like one thing, even like while we were having that Facebook chat at the village, I was talking to my husband and he's like, so what's the husband saying in all this? You know, that was his comment. Because like he and I, before we got married, sat down and had that conversation. Do you want children? One. He was like, yeah. I was like, okay. He asked me, do you want children? I said, yeah. He said, okay, how many children do you want? You know, so that we all have that conversation and we agree, because it can be like, okay, EJ, we got married, life is fine. EJ is not ready. I'm ready. I'm like, oh, let's have children. EJ's like, what are we talking about? So that's pretty much it. It's like people don't have that conversation early on. When I'm able to shut people up, because I know if they walk up to him, he'll give them the exact same answer, because we already agreed. This is how many children we're going to have. We agreed to have 3 children. I said, okay, what happens if we try and the baby doesn't come biologically? He said, we will adopt. We had an agreement. You see what I mean?
And I like that. I like the fact that you guys discuss that, because I think a lot of people, we do. I would say this. I don't think people don't have the conversation, but it's more on the surface.
Mm-hmm. True.
It's on the surface. Oh, do you want children? Yes. Oh, okay. I want 5. Oh, okay. And you just leave it at that.
Exactly. And then 5 children. Can you handle 5 children? Are you counting on your ancestors to come raise them?
Let's talk about that.
We need to talk about that, because it's like, oh, EJ is my brother. He used to come help me with those children. Was EJ there when you were doing them? No, he was not part of the math. So why should you rely that he bent over backward to take care of your children? That should not be happening. So the conversation needs to be for real. How many can we handle? It could be 1. Okay, you take your 1 and you peace out on everything else. Or it could be we can handle more, because we see that financially we have the thing. We are organized enough that we can handle more than 1 child and all that kind of stuff. So everything really comes with communication. If that's not there, everybody else that's talking, none of them is going to leave their house to come help you with the children. I mean, people talk to me, you need to have more children. And I ask them, would you babysit? They'll be like, about that. I'm like, exactly, about that.
You know, if I may come in before you move on, Edwin, I think also people do have these conversations, but it's not your business to know that I had this conversation. So, you know, couples are forced to just kind of smile and nod, but you don't know what these 2 people have talked about. You don't know what they're going through. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I think in any reasonable couple where, quote unquote, things are lined up and they're right, they have these conversations like, you know, this is what I want, this is what we can deal with. And when they're trying and it's not happening, they're still talking. I'm sure they're frustrated, but they're having conversations. It's just not for any and everybody. You don't have to call your mother, you don't have to call your sister, you don't have to tell your friends. But I think couples that want that commitment or that bonding to happen in a relationship, I want to believe that they're having, you know, those kinds of conversations.
Hopefully.
Right.
So when I know, like Lori said, your husband was asking what is the husband saying. So going back to the story, he don't care. He's fine. Right. He's like Edwin, I think he has 7 siblings. He grew up in a house with too many people. He's literally loving his life when it's just he and his wife. And he doesn't. It's like he's like, I can come home, I can just warm something in the microwave and go. I don't got to think about nobody else. When she come home, she do the same. Like that, it's fine. Like I said, his family, because there are 7 kids. Of course, his mom and dad, they're fine. They have probably 25 grandkids. They're good. Her family who's really pressuring her to have kids, and she doesn't understand. Like, and for her, it's not really about the fact that they keep on telling her. It's the fact that her worth is based on her giving birth.
Yeah.
And I want us to move into this segment because I want us to really talk about why is it that this society has this stigma that says that a woman without a child is worthless. Like we might not want to talk about it, but it is so true.
Mm-hmm.
People have this thing like, oh, you don't have kids. Okay, the person that have kids, they're safe. They have other achievements in life. So I don't know, how do you guys think about it? Like, and Laurie, before I ask you, before you started having kids, did you feel like there was a different shift in how people interacted with you or things that you were invited to and stuff like that?
Yes, there was definitely, like, from before and now, there is a stark difference. That I can tell you, like, point blank. Like, even amongst women, there's a difference. The way we treat each other, because this one got babies and this one doesn't. We do that to ourselves. I think this came again from like way back when, in those days where the more children you have, the more possessions you have access to, kind of thing. It was like children are wealth. Nowadays, it's a whole different dynamics, but we just transferred that culture along. We kept it there, even though it's no longer relevant.
Right.
Having children is no longer a symbol of wealth, because otherwise a lot of the people that are on welfare with 7, 10, 11, children will be wealthier, but they're not.
Exactly.
So we need to like get even women to think about it that way. Be willing to have a frank conversation. My dear, I do not want children. Or, my dear, I believe that myself, the way I see me, I can only handle one. The other person can negotiate. You can talk back and forth and agree. And then as we talk with our parents, because the generation before us still has that mindset, as we talk with those members of the parents, grandparents, all of them that get really grandchildren happy, we talk to them again, the same conversation. Look, the achievements that I've had so far are great. Your name is out there already. As far as children are concerned, when the time comes, don't worry. I will make sure your name is on one of them. Because the main thing, that's that. It's like, Lorette has 3 grandchildren, and so I want one of them to have my name. That's the only reason I want my children to have it. That's pretty much it. If you look at it, that's the reasoning behind it. Because it's no longer that the more children, they understand that the more children you have, it doesn't give you bigger lands. It's just that, oh, before I go, I want to know there's a child over there that has my name. Because that's the thing. When the child comes out, they're like, okay, so who's gonna get the name? Is it your in-law side or our side? I got that question for each one of my cousins.
Wow.
That's the thing. So even when the way we treat each other, my friend, my sister has not had children yet, I should not treat her any different than the one that has 3, 4, 5 children. Because again, it's not because of what she popped out of herself, but it's because of her. So once we take it off that level, then we're gonna fix this issue in society. But we ourselves need to get to a place where we treat each other differently than we're doing now.
So yeah, I want to go with you because you're just living your best life right now. And there are people who are jealous. People who got kids, look at her. She's traveling, she's there.
Exactly, right?
And I gotta be wiping snot nose, and people be mad. How you doing?
I think there are, and not necessarily from me, but I think, I know friends who also live vicariously through people who have children. Yeah. Right? You don't have that ease of movement. You don't have that ease of finances. Things are harder for you to do when you have children. And parents complain, and that's healthy. Like, you're going to complain, but some of us and some of my peers look at it and they're like, so I'm actually okay with being selfish right now, right? And nothing is wrong with that. My spouse, my partner, and when somebody says there's a party going on, we don't have to look for a babysitter. We can get in our car and we move, right? You don't have to deal with, in some cases, like, think about what happened with Corona. It shut things down. I cannot tell you how many people who I mean, as a teacher, that was life. You have to do snow days, you know, parents are frustrated. So when Corona happened, some of these parents, they didn't really know their kids, and they're now stuck in the house with these 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. Who they us teachers for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 9 months a year. Now it's like all of your hands have to be on deck, and the children that you thought you knew, you're now actually learning. And for those of us who were either from both sides, didn't have children, and who were teachers, I saw some frustrations with some people, and it was entertaining to me, if I have to be honest, you know. So it's like the same way, you know, you're looking at somebody like, who's going to take care of these kids, and is it about the who's going to leave this name behind? Sometimes for us looking in, it's like, we see your struggles, and we're just not ready to join that struggle. We are, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, you can be mad at me all you want, but sometimes it's just
I'd be mad at you sometimes. I'm like, why is she traveling again?
I mean, if the money's not gonna go to kids, it might as well go to us.
I
Right?
understand, sis. I got you. I understand. But before we go further, of course, we have the amazing Siobhan who's joining us again from Liberia, guys. So yeah, I told you.
No, she's in Ghana. She's in Ghana. She's in Ghana.
So Ghana? Okay. Well, welcome, ma'am. Thank you for being here with us.
I'm so sorry for being late.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. So just want you to introduce yourself to the people, tell the people who you are. Damn, Rel gonna put you on the spot.
Okay, I'm Siobhan Burnett, Liberian, currently living in Ghana, but my heart is still in Liberia. I'm a mother of an 18-year-old boy, so 18.
18?
As of 1 month ago, yes.
Well, no, that's a lie.
No, time flies.
I can vouch for her. It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, to be young and frisky.
Yes. I got stories about that kid.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow. But thank you for being here with us. Really appreciate the time that you took to join us. We've been having a conversation, but what we're really talking about right now is this whole culture where they're forcing, you know, it's like I did the story and I told people how I got you guys on here because I put a story up. You guys were vocal. I'm like, good. I got the people to talk about the conversation. But really this stigma where people feel that women, your entire life, everything that you do, if you don't have a child, you aren't worth anything. And so I don't know how you have a son, you have an 18-year-old. So technically you are an empty nester. They're about to start asking you. So when you gonna have the next one? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
So what do you think about this thing that everybody feels that, you know, a woman's worth is based on her having a child?
Yeah, definitely think that's some backwards thinking in our society. Even with me having, like, for me, from a very young age, I knew I just wanted one.
Okay.
Liberian people still not satisfied, or just people in general. When you having another one, when you give the boy a sibling, I'm like, no. I knew from a young age, I just wanted one. When I had the one, I had made every precaution to make sure it didn't happen again. Because, you know, even like, I think it's a very, very backwards mentality. You know, they like to say we have American mentality. They have a different mentality on this side, but it's very backwards in my opinion.
And yeah, and so look at the fact I really like it because Laurie will talk about this. You talked about this earlier, where it's like, can this person just say they don't want to have any and everybody be okay with it? Can we just move on? Can we move on? And so I really want us to go into this fact where I just realized there is a thing. It's called tachophobia. And tachophobia happens early in the childhood or during pregnancy when women don't want to give birth. So sometimes a woman gets pregnant and she goes into tachophobia and she says she's not opening her legs. And so they got to do this whole thing. And of course, you know, they got to basically go through C-section. But I don't know if you guys heard about it because I know didn't know they had a name, but I know I've heard about women who they have to force.
Yeah, honestly, that's my first time hearing the name of that. You know, but
I've heard it where women say they're not doing that.
I think something that a lot of people don't think about or realize is pregnancy and giving birth is the closest a lot of women come to death before they actually die. There's so many things that happen to your body, that happen to you mentally, that they don't teach you about in school, in the books, you know, and you're experiencing that firsthand a lot of times on your own because nobody else can tell you what you're feeling or what you're going through. People do a postpartum depression, all that stuff, you know. So a lot of time that's a lot for somebody to deal with, and especially if you have young mothers. Yeah. We are, even at my age now, we are still human beings who are going through these experiences, giving birth to somebody and having to teach that person about life, and you haven't even figured it out yet. So it's just an experience. Everything is just scary. You know, it's not something to push on people if they're not ready for it or if they don't want it. Yeah.
But I want to talk about the body change. So I had the opportunity of being with my wife from day one until he jumped out, literally. And I saw the body change, like the way your body changes, your temperature changes. It's a whole different thing. And I think a lot of people don't understand because I just want to put it, you got the 5'9", 6'2" girls, skinny legs going. I mean, they're just living the best life. And then all of a sudden, their bodies start to change. And of course, I don't care how people can be comfortable with themselves. There is still this subconscious thing in the back of your mind. It's like, oh my God, what is happening to me? Am I going to lose it? Am I going to be you go through all these changes. And that's why, because it's like, is it okay for a woman to say, you know what? I don't want my body to go through that.
Absolutely okay.
Like, you guys are women, and I just want to find out, like, what do you think of, like, do you want your body to go through that? It's like, I know there are a lot of women who say, oh, I want to go through that process. I think it's beautiful, but is it okay for a woman to say, no, I'm good?
Can I start as a person who hasn't? So as the person who's not been through the experience, I would have to say, yeah, that I think somewhere in my mind that's me, right? So I have never been through the experience, but I've definitely been with friends and family members and seen how they have changed. I've been in the delivery room with two people, and right there, front and center, and seeing the child come out. I mean, living in Liberia right now, some days it feels like 200 degrees, and I pass by pregnant women who just look miserable. Like, they look miserable, and I'm like, as myself, I'm easily overheated. Like, I can't imagine what that must feel like, standing in this heat and like this being this person. You look at people and you're just like, you see the nose changing, the lips changing, and I'm just like I really want this kid. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to anybody, but it's this process, and I appreciate like every woman that I know, and they are beautiful when they're in this stage, but this process just like, so I think for me it's just kind of one of those things where I'm just like, it's the means to an end, right? And whenever I'm blessed to go through it, I'm sure I'm going to embrace it or whatever, but just like right now I look at it and I'm just like, if I like had another way out, I'm game to take it, because it just does not look comfortable. It does. And I've been with people who have enjoyed their experience, and I've been with people who from day one had a horrible experience. So it's like these dueling things are just like kind of in my head. And like I said, I just see these women here, and it just looks uncomfortable. It doesn't look fun. And I'm just like, what's my next option? Like, I want the baby. Like, what's next? Like, what, what are my options where my husband and I can be together and living, wherever. So in my mind, yeah, I'll accept it when it happens, but
and I will tell you, I'll let the guys who almost passed out. Yeah,
that's how I ended up in the room.
Yes, I was in the room, and when I saw, so my friend told me, one of my really good friend told me, you know, for us who aren't Liberian on here and people who are watching aren't Liberian, there's something in Liberia called kuku jumuku. Kuku jumuku, if you are not inside, you don't know. So they're like, nobody is going to tell you the actual thing that happens in that society room. But when you get there, you see it. And when you leave from there, trust me, you will not talk about it anymore. And so after I saw what happens in the society room, I was literally just going. And then the nurse was like, pulled me to the window, opened the window for me to get air. Because I was like, no human being in the right mind should sign up for something like this. Like, what are you doing to yourself? But Laurie, you have 3 girls.
Yes.
Meaning you've been to this place 3 times. So tell us why after the first time you went back to 3?
Because I actually love children. And I wanted to have those 3. I desperately did. It's like one of the reasons also where the conversation came up with my husband before we got married was because before we got married, medically, I was barren. So doctor said it'd be like very miraculous chance if I get 1. And if I do get pregnant, it wouldn't hold. So I felt I needed to have that conversation with him. That, by the way, we need to know, you know, are you game or not? Because don't propose. It's nice that you propose, but we had to talk. So we talked, and you know, we came to an agreement. Like I said earlier, it was like, if you can't pop one out, don't worry, we'll adopt. But we agreed on a number, which was 3 children. We didn't care whether it was boy, girl, whatever, because again, I can't make the boys happen by myself, and I can't make the boys or girls happen by himself. So the 2 coming together, by God's grace, we got 3 beautiful girls, and we are blessed. And yes, I went 3 times because I love children. I've always wanted to have children, but science had said something else. But I got my miracles, and I'm very, very glad to have been able to have those 3 girls.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Well, you guys are all career women. You guys are all career women. You guys are doing your own thing. And so I want to talk about that because I think that's another factor that people don't factor in. You are a career woman. You have dreams like your husband. You have dreams like everybody else. You have aspirations. There are things you want to do. Unfortunately, there is a stage that you will get to when you are carrying that child that you can't do all the things that you want to do. When you have the kids, you probably, some people have to slow down if you don't have the finances, like Yabo talked about earlier, to have the nannies and the this and the that. There are some things you got to put back on the back burner. And why I bring this up is because there was a post somebody posted, but he actually factored in the fathers, but when they put mothers in, he said that he felt that the fathers, like our fathers, were less fathers than the fathers now. And so I want to put mothers in it. And I want to say, you know, like, okay, why would someone say the mothers are less mothers than now? And I think one of the things what he said, we added in, was career driven. You know, the mother, because I brought it now. So we're talking about mother. He said, well, you know, the mothers now, they can go get a job and the man can take care of the home and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, let's talk about that. So you guys are all career women. You're doing your thing. When that time, Yabo, your time coming, or that shot, maybe your best life will hold you to it. But Yabo, also you, like, did you ever sit down and think like, okay, there might be certain things I might not able to achieve because I want to have kids, or I do have kids, so there are certain things I can't do when it comes to my career or when it comes to where I want to go with my business and stuff like that. Anybody can tackle that.
I know one thing was I realized that as long as I was a full-time classroom teacher, I didn't want to have kids. it's exhausting being a teacher and then turning around and coming home to deal with your child or your children. So I think my career path was always, okay, I will spend time in the classroom, but at some point when I'm looking at getting a family, I'm going to need to move out of the classroom, not out of the school, but I just cannot be on all day with, 25, 30, 35 of other people's children and be the best them and coming. It's just exhausting. I am an introverted person, as much as people don't want to believe it. And so at the end of the day, dealing with peers and students and parents, when you get home, I was tired. So I knew that when I was ready to have kids, I had to transition out of the classroom to be the best mother that I think, I needed to be. So that was, that's how I think career played for me. I'll let the other two chime in.
Well, Siobhan got an 18-year-old, so.
So for me, I think when I was younger, I was a bit naive. Because like I said, when I was younger, I knew I wanted one child. I knew I wanted that child early, like before 25. And in my mind, I had it all planned out. I would go to undergrad. I would finish grad school by the time I was like 23. And then I would have my child. And I thought, like I said, I was naive. I was lucky enough to have family that was very supportive. So I just had it in my mind that we would take care of this child. I was very naive. No, I had a great support system. And I think my timeline worked for me because the time where I had to be really active, I had time. I was still early in my career. I had time to do all of that, spend the time with him, and now that I'm more settled and established in my career, he's more independent. So I don't have to feed him, you know what I mean? So I feel like the timeline that I had my child on worked best for what my life, what I went through in my life. And I think I was blessed to have that timeline because I couldn't imagine where I am in my career now, having to take care of a toddler or even a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old, So it just worked out how it was supposed to work out. Yeah.
All right. You got a business, you got a husband, you got 3 kids. Now, how you doing that? Tell us.
27-hour days.
How is that?
But I think my husband and I have a system that is working well for us. My business is also something that allows me to be in the zone. So while the children are at school, we get some things done. We have our meetings and stuff because I'm also a consultant with another a local company. So I do those things. And then when it comes to my business things, I wait for everybody to be asleep and I do my thing. Nobody is interrupting me. And I take my time and I flow. By the time they wake up, everything on that side is covered. So that's kind of how I've been doing the business and the everything else. But like Siobhan mentioned earlier about the school. For me, schooling was very important, and I got married towards the tail end of it. So by the time my first pregnancy was there and it's time to give birth, I was like 2 weeks away from my first graduate degree. So I took pretty much the break and came back and do the 2 weeks and I graduated. And then my second baby, I came back to get my MBA. And again, a few weeks away from graduation, it was time to give birth. I peaced out, came back, finished the program and graduated. So I walked while I was even walking for the MBA. The baby was in the stroller. And some of my classmates were like, oh my gosh, that's a cute baby. I was like, oh, if you knew. But, it worked out well for me timeline-wise. And also the fact that, my husband has been very, very hands-on and very understanding. So that has helped with everything else that's going on with me.
That's really good.
I just want to add something quick. I think one of the good things about our culture is we have that it's a village. It takes a village mentality. Like I always tell people, I say my child is the perfect example of it takes a village, because from birth, that like I've been so blessed to have an amazing support system, and it's important. And you know, a lot of people don't have that, so I understand it. Everybody has different difficulties when going through child rearing, but that's the one thing I really appreciate within our community. We have that it takes a village mentality. You never feel like you're on your own. Even if you and your child in the house by yourself, you never feel like you're on your own. Even if it's just a phone call for somebody to give you some words of encouragement or whatever the case may be. I've always had amazing support behind me.
And I think just to add, before we move on, I live in Liberia for that exact it takes a village reason. Like I was like, you know, I don't know where I'm going to find myself in 10 years, but I need my Mary, I need Martha, I need somebody to wash the clothes, you know, mop. I want that. I want that. And I want it for cheap. And, you know, I'm not, you know, so that's why I'm here.
We're not coming back to America, is what she's trying to say.
That's what I'm going to say. I'm looking at they ain't coming back. They're done with us.
Yeah,
but like, we are here. We are here. We're holding the ground until you guys get back. But what is this? And what you're saying, it's really important, because that it takes a village to raise a child is extremely, extremely important. I think a lot of people don't understand that, especially for us from the African background. You know, when the girls who are fortunate enough, you know, their mothers will come, their sisters or their aunties, somebody will come, you know, show you the little ropes when you first give birth and do all the little, you know, they show you all the little tricks, things that you can do. You know, they will be there for you. Sometimes they would do something, leave you alone. You got to figure that part out by yourself. But at the end of the day, they're still going to be there. Your aunties, you know, you can still call them and say, look, something's going on with the child. I remember my son used to have this hiccup thing. And I would be freaking out. My uncle said, oh, man, just knock the ball back. The ball will be fine. I'm like, oh, I got to go to the doctor. She said, oh, young American children, the ball will be fine. When he do that, because he used to like literally feels like he's choking in his sleep. And she said, oh, no, it's fine. Just knock it back. I get it. What she used to say, the bottle can have air in it and the child have gas. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But I think it's that thing, like you said, it's like the village. You always have these people who will be there for you, help you to assist you with the child and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the responsibility, that is your child. Mm-hmm. That is nobody. You have this person now that everything you do, Yavo, you have to think, oh, I won't go on a vacation, but oh Lord Jesus, why would I put this child? Let me look at the school schedule.
But why can't my child start stamping passports as soon as he or she can start stamping passports?
No problem, it can happen. I'm not saying it can, but everything will work around them, because you got to work around the school schedule. Yeah, you got to work around the school schedule. You cannot take the child out of school because you won't go to Singapore.
I'm a teacher. I will support that learning, honey.
You see, you're a teacher. I can't do it. That whole quarantine thing, that stressed me out. I was out. Done. I couldn't wait for him to go back to school. But let's talk about the responsibility, because I think a lot of people just look at it. And I like, Yabo, you talked about it from the beginning, where you talk about finances and all that stuff. People don't factor that in when they're talking about having children. Mm-hmm. They don't factor that in. They're just like, oh, you know, I'm going to have 5 children. Even if you live in a developing country, 5 children still cost a lot, because you have to pay the person who's going to come to the house to take care of these 5 children. You got to pay somebody to have extra 5 people clothes they have to wash. Like all that stuff, you got to think about all that stuff. So I think I really want to talk about the responsibility that is really focused on the mother. We have this thing where it's like, it's the mother's responsibility. So you guys are all moms and prospective moms. Tell me your honest opinion about that. If you're upset, just say it.
So that is one of the main reasons why I have always been team one and done. Because I grew up in the house I have a lot of siblings, but I grew up in the house with my 2 brothers. And like, I used to see the frustration on my mom's face when like the 3 of us fighting. And like, when one of them get me started, that the whole day we on. So I'm like, you know, I used to be like, you know what, when I have my children, it's just going to be one. I just got to worry about one of them. Nobody come be friends. Like, you know, so that actually And not only that, you as a child, you observe things. You see, especially like, I know everybody assumes that once you live in America, you got everything good. No. When you see your parents struggling and there's some things you want to do, but maybe you can't do because you know they don't have it, and you see that they have to spread it across, all those things factor in when at least for me, when I considered how many children I want to have. Like, I know what I'm able to handle. I know my level. Let me stay right there and not overexert myself. So all that plays into part. Everybody knows what they can handle. And for me, I know by myself what I can handle. So yeah.
Agree with you. What team won?
If I may,
go ahead.
If I may chime in, I think for me is, I mean, I'm the middle of 3. I have a bunch of siblings, so I saw all of that. But I also, this whole war thing that happened in Liberia, Siobhan is talking about the struggling. It was like, my dad lived here because it was the best way he could, provide that financial piece. And then it was my mother taking care of my sister and I. But whenever my dad would come, it was he would cook. Like, people always like, oh, how do you look at your dad like that? And talk? I'm like, I know this man as my dad. I get it. He's respected and blah, blah, but this is my dad. This is the person who, when he was in America, like, he would iron my clothes, like outfits over outfits over outfits. And when he would leave, I would enjoy being like, oh, I'm still wearing something that my dad ironed. So I always knew that, I wanted, you can't make things up, right? So you don't know what God has in plan, but I want everybody in my family to have their own car door. Like, nope, so that means us plus the 2 kids. I want, and then I want to have a partner that's present, like, because it's true. Like, it was those moments where, like when my dad was present, he took us places, and I enjoyed that. This idea that especially African men if you allow them to be absent and not present in this place that I see, they will be. So all day, so I'm like, no, sir, like, you need to be present. And I will say this, I tell people this all the time, I think I'm crazy. I was strategic in the kind of partners that I wanted to have. I never wanted somebody who previously had children. As a teacher, I seeing my friends, I'm selfish. I want a man to be present for his children. So I will never fight somebody for going to their child's basketball game or whatever during the day, but I want you to be with me. I never wanted that person to have to choose. So I was like, we both need to have a clean slate. So go ahead, Larry.
I like that. I really, really like that, because I don't think a lot of people take that into consideration, because you can't stop your partner if they have kids outside will be with their kids, but then you also in the home, let's say with your kids, and you need that time. So how are we going to divide this time? And so I really like that you brought that in, because I think that's extremely important. Lorraine, you want to chime in? Or you like, I'm just going to give you.
I'm enjoying this. but yeah, it's like they bring very valid points. It's like when the selection process needs to happen, you really have to think, am I going to be the only one holding the bucket? And one expression that I used to have back in the days is like a single mother that happens to be married. So a married single mother. We have that mentality, especially in the African circle, that you have a lot of married single mothers. So those women, it's like, there's an inside joke with my husband is you go to the church, you see the husband like 5 miles ahead, and the woman's dragging all dragging all the children. That's pretty much it. It's like we need to get to a place where the parents are both working, walking in, going places with their children. But for that to happen, y'all need to have that conversation. It's true that it's like complicated when the family is recombined, like it comes with one, you come with one, you come together, and then you have others together. And it's all like, oh, who's going to be doing what? And there's baby mama trouble and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think it all boils down to communication. Because then he and I can be like, okay, what times do you think work for me to go visit with the other children? Or when can the child come? Because at that point, it's not encroaching on your space. You dominate your space. You're inviting the other child in and out so that they can have that family environment going. Whatever he does with the child or the child's other parents is something that you are well involved in. You know, I've seen that in my family, and it works when communication is there, because then the other person is afraid of bringing drama because they're aware that you dominate the space. But if that conversation doesn't happen, it gets complicated, and, you know, misunderstandings happen and things go sideways real quick. And the choice of starting with a clean slate is very good, because you know yourself. You know what you can handle and what you cannot handle. So if you don't feel you can handle a recombined family, it doesn't matter how hot the guy is. Peace out. It doesn't matter how hot the lady is. Peace out, because you can't handle it. Especially when it's the lady coming with a child, you gotta be all levels of mature to be able to handle that. Otherwise, you're gonna break the relationship that you thought you were having. So
but since we're on that topic, I want us to talk about this. Is 2022. I'm just sorry. This is 2022, and now the dynamics of family has changed. I mean, I don't know if you guys, so I watched the little videos on Instagram, and they have this video where this couple, it's like the 21st century couple where they're trying to date, but they're literally asking these like really serious questions, like, what's your income level? Where would you like to go for vacation? How many kids would you like to have? Where would you like to live? And, you know, and for his deal was they got a vacation in, I think, Brazil. She said she got a vacation in the vineyard. He said that's not gonna work for him. Okay, bye. We try. Have a good day. Yeah. And that, I think, is like, if we look where we talked about, you know, the redefining of motherhood, the redefining of all these things, and being that we're celebrating the Women's History Month, that's why I had you guys come on this show anyway for us to talk about this. It's women now are stepping out the box. Nobody is here to be breastfeeding and cooking food at the same time. Nobody's going to be doing that no more. We are all going to take turns. We're going to take, if we got to take the kids to basketball game, we're either going together or one person going while I'm doing this other stuff. Like, I mean, that is what's happening now. And so I really I'm really trying to find for you guys, you know, I'll call you guys the 21st century women, like your career women, you have your kids, you're going on. It's like, what do you expect, you know, in the next 5-6 years from your husband or your partner or the man in your future when it comes to kids? Anybody can go because everybody go way too quiet. Let's go.
I'll go. I think even now in my career, I still don't know what I'm doing, right? So it's just what it's just about that time where I was like, okay, you know, I'm ready for this next phase. So I mean, it's just going to be what it is, and the rest of the things will fit in this stage, and I'm willing to give up, you know, my quote unquote freedom for this stage to happen, right? Before, like Siobhan said before, she wanted it before 25. You couldn't pay me, you know, like you 30. I was saying, like when she said it, I was like, oh, like you couldn't pay me at 25. So I was gonna do any and everything possible, you know, for that not to be, you know, the space that I found myself in. So now, I mean, I still have things that I want to do, but I think I know I'm at a place mentally where interruptions are welcomed, you know, and, you know, and for that next phase to happen. So I feel like, you know, the 21st century woman can continue to happen with the nurse, the nanny, the maid, the cook, the laundry washer, you know, all of those things. It's just a matter of, you know, what you're putting in place to, and of course you don't know what will happen. You cannot predict the future, but I feel like if you have set your career up to give you the things that you think you're going to need to succeed, then they can happen at the same time, right?
Yep.
So
that was it. Who's going to talk? Who's going? I'm going to go ahead, Lord.
I believe that as far as planning is concerned for this, everything really, I've gotten the best of both worlds when it came to this. So I'm very happy because we have such a nice communication that we're able to pretty much adapt when things change, you know? Because I know when I was younger, I had this rigid kind of list that I need to go by this list. But now I have learned to, you know, just hit the ground running. Every time something happens, I just adapt and I move with it. And it does the same. And so that allows us to be able to handle much more than if we had kept to rigid expectations. Because again, life is not rigid. You know, you wake up the next morning, you can decide that instead of these grays, you want to be blonde. Just go for it. You know, but it's like we need expectations true, but I believe we need to leave room for that unexpected to happen and be able to flow with it. And that's pretty much how we've been living marriage so far. This year has been 9 years, and we've been at it.
Years later.
And 9 years, 3 children, you know, and pretty much we have 3 toddlers. So you have to get creative on the road, you know, like the oldest is 7. So, so it gets exciting. If you keep it rigid, you lose your mind, because really, like, especially children nowadays, I feel like they're born with a different kind of something. So
yeah. You said sit down and look at you.
Thank you.
I'm like, sit down. Why are you looking at me? Move.
And this is why I said while I was in the classroom, I couldn't have kids. Like, I'm doing that times 28, 32, 35 people every day. Like, if my child is not going to sit down when I ask you to sit down, we're going to have a problem.
I like you said that, because we used to say that too. I know I was that one. I'd be like, if any, and then my son, he would just look at me and be like, okay, can you just sit down? Like, can you please?
But that's move? Because you're not dealing with the kids all day. Trust me.
Can you move? Can you please? It's like, you're like, because I don't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
But you guys have been great. It is 3 minutes to go time. And like I always tell people, I say, you don't realize that how short an hour is. But this has been great. I appreciate you guys for coming here. Is there anything you want to say to the people who are redefining motherhood? You guys are just fabulous women out there doing your thing. We especially the melanin sisters. Y'all, I just love my Black sisters, and y'all just doing it out there. And y'all with the 3 kids, Laurie, we appreciate you. We love you. You're doing it. We take our hat to you. Siobhan over here trying to show us that she got an 18-year-old. You know, she's like, I got an 18-year-old. I don't deal with that stuff you're talking about. It's okay, Yamo. I'm sorry. You okay? We just gonna be watching you on Instagram.
It's coming.
Living your best life. No, living your best life. Because I'm gonna be like, look at her. She just traveled again. Oh my God. She just traveled. Look at me. I can't go nowhere. But from here, we are snotty nose. But yeah, I think to say to people that would really be great before we end this.
So my last 30 seconds, especially for those of us, like, we haven't even hit the 5-year mark. We don't have kids. Like, it, you know, it's none of your business. You know, simply that's what it is. It's just none of your business. You don't know what the couple is going through. They may not be going through anything. So just wish them well in whatever it is, you know, this journey that they've embarked on, because being married is hard enough, you know, and then you throw in kids, you know, it's another level. So it's none of your business, and just wish them well.
Next person. Oh, Siobhan, you're saying something?
For having a toddler or young child at this age. And I don't want to make it seem like having a teenager or older is easier, because I actually think after, like, pre-teen and teenagers are harder to deal with. You're dealing with a lot more mental struggles, you know what I mean? As opposed to just physical energy being exerted. So it's not something that gets easier. It's a tough journey from, you know, from birth until way past 18, you know, I still have a lot of work to do, because even like today's kids are not the kids we were at 18. So I feel like they're still, I still look at this boy as if he's like 12 or at the oldest 15. I'm like at 18, I had my own apartment. I was paying rent. I was working, but I can't imagine you, you know, right now. I have my own car, all that stuff. But yeah, so it's not to diminish anybody's efforts or anything, or make it seem like it doesn't get easier. It's just a different level of effort you have to put in, a, you know, different difficult level of difficulty, but it's not an easy journey. Enjoy these few years. That's the fun. It's fun. It's so much fun. I just don't have the energy anymore, but it's fun. There's those.
I was just fun. He doesn't. My son doesn't want me to hug him no more. Like, you know, get away.
Like Lori said, I actually, even though I said I wanted one, I love children. But I just know that for myself, I only wanted one. But I have so many nieces and nephews that I can spread all this love to. My son has plenty of cousins and god siblings that are siblings to him. So he has an abundance of love, and yeah, so
very.
Well, two things I would say is communication and planning. Those are the two things that people need to focus on. Everybody else, they're just there for the food. That's it. Because really, it's the same thing. When you're getting married, you spend $100,000 on this wonderful wedding, 500 guests. The 500 guests show up for the food. After you get home, you deal with the person you brought home. So it's the same thing. We outside, we're there for the food, for the baby shower, take nice pictures, Facebook posts, and that's it. You struggle on your own. If you count on me to have 10 children, you'll be sorely disappointed. So communicate with your partner and have that moment of planning. Plan it well, because I am only there for the food. That's it.
We only come to the baby shower for the food, people, and to take the really nice pictures. If y'all didn't know, that's what we do. And that's what you did to us too. So we're going to do it to you too. But this was the conversation. We had a great conversation with these amazing ladies. Thank you, Yavo. Thank you, Siobhan. Thank you, Lorette. I enjoy you guys. We have come to the end. The conversation is done. I hope we can continue this conversation. Those who are watching in your homes, talk to your kids, boys and girls. I know a lot of time we have this conversation only with our daughters, but you want to have it with your son as well. Have these conversations. They're extremely important. So we see you next week, Thursday. You guys, you all have a great evening, and thank you so much for honoring the invitation, and I'll see y'all later.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye. So of course, you're watching the conversation. Of course, we are still on Spotify. We're also on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube. Of course, we're there. You can go ahead. The conversation, Outspoken Opinionated. This was the conversation. My name is Edwin Meyer, and guess what? We are out.